Hi everyone, so for today's video, I wanted to take you all along with me to a few thrift stores, and we are in the search for some spring decor. And I don't decorate for spring in maybe a more traditional sense in terms of I'm not decorating for Easter or St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day. I'm decorating for the seasonal change. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with the most obvious section in the thrift store for spring, which is the floral section. And a lot of it is really oversaturated and really fake looking. I like to try to keep it as natural looking as possible when I'm doing faux florals. I obviously prefer to do real when I can, but every now and then at the thrift store, you can find some really beautiful floral arrangements that are already done. For example, I came across this floral arrangement. I liked the color of the basket. It was like a dark walnut color, as well as the greenery and the florals all looked really nice, good quality, but it was $10. So typically I don't like to spend this much, but again, this was already done and it was a nice size floral arrangement, so I picked that one up. Another section I like to peruse through is the sports section. And this is maybe somewhat unconventional, but I definitely like to do this because I think it gives a really lived in feel. So I think of the sports that happen during the spring. So tennis, baseball, golf, and see what accessories I can use to kind of decorate my home using them. Another way I like to decorate for spring is using wardrobe pieces that are staples during the springtime. So rain boots, umbrellas, raincoats. And I found this beautiful pair of green huntress rain boots, and they just looked so nice and lived in and just rustic. And I really wanted to create a vignette using these three items that I picked up. And whenever I'm decorating for a change in the season, I like to pick specific spots in my house that I'm expecting a change to happen. So I'm just styling up these three items on this little entryway bench, and I just feel like it looks so spring and it welcomes the season so nicely. Another thing I found at the thrift store were these matching set of mauve vases, and I thought they looked so spring. And for 50 cents for the smaller one and just $1.50 for the bigger one. Now there was a little bit of wear, so I might have to do something about that later, but for now I was really happy with them. And I cleaned them, I took the stickers off, and I know they're vases, but I thought it would be so much cuter if I could put candles in them, and then maybe for summer add some sand to the bottom or something like that. Because while I'm thrifting, I'm thinking about where the item is going to be going, and I knew it was going to be going in my daughter's nursery, and there's already an arrangement there on top of a picture of a floral arrangement, so it just would have been too much flowers in this one little section, but I still think it pulls in all of those spring tones that I'm really trying to incorporate this season. Another section I like to look through at the thrift store is the gardening section. It's not a section that has a lot of things, but the things that are there are really nice sometimes if you just want to take it for styling purposes. So I did find a few things in here. I found this little spring cleaning broom for just 25 cents, and this gardening tool was just 50 cents. So 75 cents altogether. I did add some little suede handles because I have a pegboard that I want to style. Again, this pegboard is something that changes with the season. Oh, there's my assistant. And this pegboard actually just came from the Target dollar spot, so I'm just styling it up with an apron that I had on hand, and I'm just hanging it on one of the pegs. And then I'm going to be hanging our little items that we picked up from the thrift. So this little spring cleaning broom here, as well as our gardening tool. And I think it just kind of feels really simple, but it definitely feels really spring-like. I liked this pegboard a lot because it also had a shelf on top, so really great for styling. And some of you might remember when I picked up this vase during the fall time for just $2, and I just took some clippings from my peace lily and decided to put that in there with some water, as well as this clock that I had on hand. And I just love this very spring gardening, spring cleaning vibe this vignette has. Another area that I expect to change in my house with the change of season is the center of my dining table. So I'm starting out with this tray basket as well as these kitchen towels that I had on hand. And I had previously thrifted these two white pitchers, and I'm just gonna put them side by side. They're not exactly the same, but again, that doesn't really bother me. And I had just found this really good quality set of hydrangea plants. So whenever I'm doing any sort of floral arrangement, I really hate to cut them because I like to give it as much opportunity to change with me, because I might not always want these hydrangeas in this picture. So I like to create a little almost foot stand, so that way it can just sit upright exactly where I want it for this exact vignette. But then later, if I need them to be long, they still have their stem. And also, while I'm decorating for spring, I'm always kind of thinking about the next season as well, and how is this going to carry me into the summertime. And I think that this also looks great for summer decorating. So a really easy, simple vignette that I think you can create with minimal supplies that you probably have on hand. Another thing that I'm looking for at the thrift store are, again, like I said, I like to choose areas in my house where I'm expecting this change to happen. So I like to look for items where that opportunity can happen as well. So I found this very strange little podium thing. And I know this is gonna be weird for a lot of people, but a lot of high-end home decor sites are selling like these little wooden book stands, and they are a small fortune. So when I found this one, I think that this is like a nice way to kind of try that trend for way less. And the way I'm thinking of it is like it's an opportunity to change the imagery that feels appropriate for the season. So right now, obviously spring, gardening, things like that, greenery. So I'm looking through the gardening section and I'm looking through the imagery of different books, and I'm seeing what is going to really fit my space really well. So after I perused through all the books, I landed on a couple of them, and hardback books are always good to buy at the thrift store. So after I brought this podium stand home, I removed those black bumpers and I just cleaned it really well using some antibacterial Pledge cleaner. And I have my books, my gardening books, off to the side, and I'm just gonna kind of like surf through the pages and kind of see what's gonna look really great in that space. I think that this is great if you are on a tight budget, because this vignette truthfully only cost $1.50 and it takes up a lot of like space. So if you are on a tight budget, I definitely recommend choosing bigger items versus smaller little knickknacks that aren't going to give you as much bang for your buck. And I like that this is something that's just lightweight, easy to move, that can kind of change with me as the seasons change. So maybe for fall, I want to use it as like a cookbook stand, or maybe for winter, I can put like the Polar Express on here in one of my kids' rooms. I'm always thinking about ways that I can use it and how much mileage I'm going to get from that item. Another section I was really hoping to find some stuff was the linen section, because a lot of the linens that I have in my house already, I have a lot of like really like masculine textiles, so like wool and leather. So I wanted to find some stuff that can help like lighten the space, and I found 3 of these linen napkins, and I had uses for each one of them. So I'm going to share with you guys how I kind of split that up and made everything kind of feel like its own entity. Another section, no matter what the season, I always like to look through is the basket section. And I was looking for a very specific basket, just like this one, but bigger. And then I found it. It was just 50 cents and it looked practically identical to my inspo picture. So I decided I was going to pick that up. And to wash the basket, I'm just taking some like warm soapy water in a rag and I'm just wiping it down. And I know the inspo picture didn't have the linen laid down, but I thought that the bread was too similar to the color of the basket. So to help break it up a little bit, I'm taking this little thrifted napkin and I'm gonna place it inside of the basket so that the bread has something kind of just like very natural to sit on top of, and it just looks really beautiful in the end. And to accompany our little picnic bread basket, I had this greenery on hand from the fall time, so I decided I was just going to use that in my little thrifted pot. If you ever want to see a DIY on how to make faux dirt, I can definitely share that with you guys. And then this is just how it kind of comes together. It's close to my inspiration picture, but not copying it exactly. And kind of just taking that same idea, I did that with this bowl that I thrifted, the napkin thrifted, the planter, the plant, both of those cutting boards, everything in this frame is thrifted, and I absolutely love it. Another thing that I like to do for spring that I don't do for any other season is I also like to decorate the inside of my front door. So I'm actually going to be using this wreath that I previously made a little thrift flip on. You just take a garland that you find that looks springy and some zip ties, and I'm taking that thrifted napkin for just 33 cents and attaching it to the middle. And I think it just like kind of feels really like whimsical and airy and very spring-like. And in my most recent thrift trip, I found this mail or letter organizer. And of course, my husband, that's the first thing he thought of as well. He's like, oh, this will be good. We can put our mail in here. And I'm like, this is a styling opportunity, Chad. So I decided I was going to put some of my favorite, just like inspiration books, cookbooks, interior design books that kind of fit the palette in my kitchen, but also incorporate some of those spring tones. Another thing I found at the thrift store that I can't really show you the after of yet because it's too early, but I paid $8 for this really large wooden crate that looks super rustic and very much my style. And for spring, once, after the last frost, I really would like to have a small little planter box garden. So I was really happy to pick this up right now. It's just by my entryway and it's obviously a very temporary solution, but I'm just kind of using it for boots and things like that right now. But later for spring, I'll be able to use it as my planter box. Another thing that a lot of people, including myself, like to change up for the season are my throw pillows. And throw pillows, even if you go to some affordable home decor stores like Target, you're at least spending like $20 per pillow. And that can get expensive when you buy 2 to 3 to 5 pillows, right? So I always like to go to the thrift store first and see what I can find. And when I'm thrifting pillows, I like to look at a couple things. The first thing is, does it fit the seasonal color palette that I'm trying to achieve? And if it does it have a zipper? Because if it has a zipper, it just makes it so much easier to clean. And furthermore, I also like to check the fill, because the fill is actually oftentimes the most expensive part of what you're paying for in a pillow. So anything that's down-filled, which the 2 that I happened to pick up were down-filled, so I felt really lucky to have found what I found in this specific thrift trip. And these 2 covers were ones that I just already had on hand. I believe this floral one is from IKEA and the pink one I believe is from Amazon. And I'm going to use these along with the 2 that I found from the thrift store. And to make that change, I'm taking the ones that have the textile or the fabric that just feel really heavy and don't really feel like spring to me. So velvets, wool, leather, those are like very fall, winter fabrics for me personally. So I wanted to switch them up for more linen-y fabrics that felt a little bit more airy. And the thrift store is definitely the way to go because you can spend a fraction of the cost, but you get that same look. And that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that if nothing else, this video inspired you to go to the thrift store and maybe find some goodies for spring, or maybe you have some of these items on hand that you can style up in your spaces. And if you found it inspirational, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.